Okay, so I'm gonna ask you a different question from an ego's perspective. Do you get bothered when your detractors are discussing it with this like "I told you so" and this and that and all this other stuff?
The only thing that bothers me is if I like miss something that's like I should have seen this, or I was too like ideologically motivated or something. Like if there's stuff that I had the information to see beforehand and I didn't, then I'm like, and I'll update my models accordingly. So for instance, one thing that I learned last year that was a really hard thing for me to learn. I don't know if we talked about this, but like with Max and Lav, is there are always like a few fundamental assumptions I bake into everybody's motivations, and one of those is self-preservation. And that was a really big one for how I dealt with people, because I'm like, I don't want to think that like a leverage sense, but it's like if you have so much to lose by like trying to over, you're not going to do it because obviously they'd be stupid. And that was a huge oversight that I had with like Max and Lav. I never would have, because if anybody would ask me, even if Max and Lav both saw me literally woman, they're not going to say anything because it would destroy their whole lives. Like they're not going to do it.
You know what it makes me think of?
Yeah.
Do you know that story about the snake and the turtle? And like the snake is trying to cross the river.
The scorpion and the turtle. I think
Okay, there you go. Yeah, so he bites it. I feel like that is very accurate for people.
Yeah.
Even though it's against their better judgment and what's good for them, they will still bite the hand that feeds them.
Yeah, I never would have imagined that. Yeah. So I'll change things going on, but like obviously I know my relationship better than anybody else, and I know like I generally know what people around me want and what they're looking for. And Redpillers like have all of their like thoughts and ideas about it, but one thing that helps is when people are so incredibly incorrect, like it makes it easy to like not care as much. So like I don't know how much you like met Melina or saw Melina, or wait, you've seen us both in real life before, right?
The time that I saw you guys here, and then we went to eat afterwards, and that's the end of it.
Okay, yeah. So like these predictions, like for instance, like Melina was using me for a green card. Melina hates the United States. Like if we were never back together again, it wouldn't surprise me if she actually like abandoned the whole process. Because like why the f does she want a green card? Like her moving here was always one of our biggest like arguments, basically. Like she held it over for a long time. Like I moved to the United States for you, so blah 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 blah. Like, okay. A second thing was the age thing that I've said historically. The age thing was always a huge like point of contention between us, because Melina's by far the youngest person in terms of age gap that I've ever dated. Most of my girlfriends have been 1 or 2 years away from me. And like Redpillers saying like, oh, you should date younger women. That's way better. And it's like, that was a point of contention. That wasn't a pro. That was a huge con. And we fought about that a lot.
So you didn't like her freshly just like legal scent?
Yeah, no. And then the idea that like, I think if Melina left, I don't want to talk about it too much because I'm trying to be somewhat respectful. But like if Melina would have left me for like Ben Shapiro or something, I think my ego would have been a little bit like, oh, this sucks or whatever. Like this guy's like excels in the traits that I excel at, maybe arguably better than me, right? But when it's somebody that is like in a totally different world in terms of like things that they offer or things that they do, then I was like, okay, that makes sense. Like different people gravitate towards different things. So like almost every red pill prediction about like my relationship or how it would end or things going on was like completely and totally off. And you can see the way they try to like twist it to make it work. So like it doesn't bother me that much. I don't really care.
Something about using you to get their platform up.
Yeah, like even that doesn't, because like, yeah, I've met girls that try to do that. Oh, that's actually pretty rare. But like Melina's community is all like completely and totally independent from mine. Like she doesn't like, she's never leached off of my stream shit or any of that. Yeah. And if she wanted to, she probably could.
I mean, I think most people can still make the argument that it's probably benefited her to some degree having you there.
Yeah, they can.
But I don't think that I think you would probably argue that that wasn't her intention or something that she was really
and that's like obvious. One thing people will do is they'll try to insert a mind state and then look at the current actions, and they'll see if the actions adhere to the mind state. So they say something like, Melina is a leech, probably. And then they'll see like, well, what did she do? And it's like, well, she moved in with you. She was on some streams. And it's like, okay, that's kind of like a leech, right? But it's like, I think that's the wrong way to evaluate if the person was. I think what you have to do is you have to start over like, okay, let's say Melina is a leech. What would a leech do? And it would have been totally different actions than what Melina took. She would have spent way more time in the US. She would have collabed me way more on stream. She would have like told me like, can you please host me like over and over, like all these things. There were so many more things she could have done. She was like, but then it also feels dumb. It's like, I know my wife, like I know, or my ex-wife, I guess. Yeah, like I know like the things that drive her and what she wants or whatever. So yeah, but so I mean like I think that the thing that usually bothers me on public stuff is if there's something that I should have seen that I like really missed. Maybe so, for instance, maybe with like the Lav stuff, like if I would have known in advance, if I would have looked up that she'd made like other weird accusations against guys, I'm gonna like, I shouldn't be anywhere near this person personally. That's something where it's like I could have like headed this off. But otherwise, yeah, when people make like wild predictions, it's like dumb. Also because like, and I'll say this, I think I made this prediction like 2 days ago, like most likely I'll get in another relationship. It will almost certainly be an open or poly one, just because that's like the lifestyle I gravitate towards, and it'll probably end. I doubt that it's unlikely that the next person I date will be my life partner. And when all of this happens again, it'll be the exact same things where poly open relationships don't work. These girls are going to dump you because it's open, and then we break up, and they'll be like, oh, look, see, we predicted everything. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
What about like Steven Crowder's relationship that just ended? They were monogamous for 10 years. What about my other 4 monogamous relationships?
I think the difference for most people, and I probably count myself in that, is that we just don't have models of polyamorous open relationships that seem to work in our lives. And so when we hear about this funky thing that looks so different and goes against the very traditional and way we've only seen it work around us, it's hard for people to be open to that idea. I don't know any examples in my personal life that work, and I don't think most people who are watching know, because if you're not around these people enough, how would you ever find out? But we do have examples of monogamous relationships that work. So that's why we think, all right, well, listen, why would I think your model functions when the only ones I've ever seen are these ones that function?
Yeah, and I think that's fair. But the problem is like the level of conviction and condescension that comes from somebody. Like if somebody was like, so for instance, if like a comment was like, man, that sounds wild, but like, I mean, if you guys are like other people and everything, like, yeah, it just seems like it would be like a lot more stressful, or there's like a lot more chances for things to like not work. If that was like a comment, that's fair. I totally get that, right? But it's not that. It's like, when you do this, like the nature of females is this will always blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I mean, okay, dude, yeah.
Okay, that's probably the more extreme criticism from like, Redpillers generally. But what do you think to the more middle people who are just like, I don't know, from like a time perspective and emotional needs perspective, it just doesn't, it doesn't seem to track on, because there's some people who do the extreme stuff with female nature, blah blah blah, but a lot of other people are just saying like, I don't think that's a functional way to build a bond and like grow and start to trust, because you always have somebody else you can run to when your emotional needs are not met. You always have somebody else that you can confide into or get your sexual satisfaction from, thus pulling you away from your relationship, which should be your priority. What would you say to those?
I mean, I understand that take. I think I say as much on stream. I don't know where this impression comes from that I don't know if you've ever said this, but I see a lot of people saying like, oh, like this is why Destiny needs to stop like telling everybody to do poly to open relationships. I've said like 1,000,000 times, like I don't recommend any part of my lifestyle for anybody. Everything about my lifestyle is like pretty exceptional, like outside the norm or whatever. So yeah, I don't even know if most people would gravitate towards or enjoy this particular type of thing. Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. Yeah, people are like, yeah, I'm not sure if I would ever do this. They're like, okay, yeah, you don't have to. I don't think I'd even recommend it. But yeah. 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 Anything else?
Gotcha.
Broiling on your mind?
Nah, man. Honestly, I really just came down to check in and see how you're doing, and then just chop it up a little bit. That's it. I didn't come here with a bunch of debate topics and stuff like that.
What do you say?
That's why that's why I'm like, yo, listen, I'm gonna be here for like 2 hours.
Yeah.
I'll let you get back to your stuff, because I know I think you do streams the way I read mangas or whatever it is. Like I like to just do it like kind of singularly with this, and like generally when other people join, I kind of hate the experience. I feel like that's often how you stream, unless they add to the experience. So
sure.